The spirit of the horse. Long before fences split the land, before wagon wheels scarred the prairie, the Great Plains were silent. The buffalo roamed in endless herds. The people, the Lakota, Comanche, Crow, Nez Perce, and Blackfoot, walked on foot, hunting with bows, running with dogs. They said the world moved only as fast as your legs could carry you. And then one day, the wind grew hooves. Go ahead and give this tale a thumbs up. Helps keep the story spirits riding high through the algorithm plains. And if you ain't already, hit that subscribe button. So next time we saddle up for another twisted history, you'll be right there in the saddle beside us. The story of how horses came to the Americas ain't just history, it's legend carved in dust. The Spanish brought them, Andalusian Mustangs, sleek, fiery, born from war and royalty. In the 1500s, they crossed the oceans under conquistadors, meant for conquest and control. But destiny had another idea. Some escaped, some were stolen, some simply ran. And when they ran, the plains found their heartbeat. The tribes first saw them as spirits, strange deer with thunder in their chests. Old stories say a Comanche boy dreamed of a creature that carried him faster than arrows, a beast that breathed like a storm. When he woke, the first wild horse grazed on the horizon. That was the beginning of something the Spanish could never take back. By the 1600s, horses spread north like wildfire, across the Rio Grande, through the deserts, into the heart of the plains. The tribes learned fast. The Apache and Comanche became the first horsemen of the southern plains. They didn't just ride, they danced with their horses. Within a few generations, the entire map of the West changed. The horse turned hunters into warriors, wanderers into empires. The Lakota rode in herds that stretched from horizon to horizon. The Nez Perce bred horses with stamina and heart, the famous Appaloosa. The Crow became scouts and traders, their horses sleek as shadows. And the Comanche, they became legends. They called themselves the Lords of the Plains. By the 1700s, no army dared cross their land without permission. A Comanche warrior could hang off the side of his horse, fire a bow under its neck, and disappear into the dust before a soldier could reload. Their villages moved with the buffalo, their lives tied to the rhythm of hooves. Horses were not animals, they were kin. Each had a name, a spirit, a place in the story of the people. A young warrior earned his first horse through courage, sometimes by stealing from an enemy tribe. The greater the risk, the greater the honor. And so a new code was born, not of gold or land, but of speed, bravery, and balance. But history, she's a cruel storyteller. By the mid-1800s, white settlers poured west. Railroads, cattle drives, and cavalry lines slicing across tribal ground. The same horses that once gave freedom now carried soldiers and settlers. The tribes called it betrayal of the wind. The U.S. cavalry used horses to chase the very people who'd perfected riding them. Battles were fought not just with guns but with horsepower, literally. And when a tribe lost their herds, they lost their strength. The Nez Perce War of 1877 was the last great horseborn rebellion. Chief Joseph and his people, men, women, children, rode nearly 200 miles, outmaneuvering the U.S. Army again and again. Their Appaloosas swam rivers, crossed mountains, outran soldiers and gunfire alike. But at Bear Paw Mountain, surrounded and freezing, Joseph finally stopped and said, "I will fight no more forever." The horses stood by them until the end, tired, hungry, loyal. And then, the plains went quiet again. But the spirit of the horse didn't die, it just changed saddles. In the 1900s, native horsemen turned to rodeos, parades, and ceremonies. Their grandchildren rode in pageants and races, keeping the old ways alive in secret. To this day, in places like Crow Fair in Montana or Pendleton Roundup in Oregon, the tribes ride in full regalia, feathers whipping in the wind, drums echoing across the fields. It's not a show, it's remembrance. The horse remains sacred, a bridge between past and present. When a child learns to ride, elders say, "The wind remembers your name now." And when an old rider passes on, they say his spirit gallops free again. Back across the endless grass, wind rises again. Distant thunder rolls. The twisted part of this history isn't how the horse changed the people. It's how the people changed the horse. From the Comanche war ponies to the Appaloosa and paint, these breeds were shaped by native hands. They carried not just riders, they carried cultures, languages, entire ways of life. The wild Mustangs you see today? Some say they're the last living descendants of those first stolen horses. Others say they're ghosts, running where their riders once rode, across the same dry riverbeds and sunburned hills. And if you ever stand alone on the prairie, long after sunset, and the wind starts to hum through the grass, you might just hear it. A faint drumming, soft as memory. The sound of the wind remembering how to run. Part 2. The Sacred Rider, when spirit and horse became one. Soft drum heartbeat under wind. The faint jingle of horse tack. A man's voice. Low, rough, timeless. There's a saying out on the high plains. The horse didn't belong to man. Man belonged to the horse. To most folks, that's just poetry. But to the people who lived and died by the rhythm of hooves, it was the gospel of the earth. The tribes of the Great Plains didn't just ride horses. They lived through them. To the Lakota, Blackfoot, Crow, and Nez Perce, a horse wasn't an animal. It was a spirit with its own medicine, its own dreams, its own destiny. They called them wagon, the holy dog. When the horse came to the people, it wasn't through trade or conquest, not in their eyes. It was through a sacred gift, brought by a vision, a storm, or a dream. Old stories tell of a boy who followed a thundercloud and found a horse standing in the rain, lightning flashing in its eyes. The boy climbed on, and together they outran the storm. When he returned, the elders said, "The sky has given you a brother." Low flute begins, soft, mystical. The horse became a bridge between worlds, between flesh and spirit, earth and sky. When a young warrior sought his vision, he'd fast, pray, and sleep under the open sky. Sometimes, if his spirit was pure, a horse would appear in his dream. The animal would speak without words, offering strength, warning of danger, or sharing the secrets of the hunt. When that warrior awoke, he'd mark his horse with symbols: lightning bolts for speed, circles for protection, handprints for victory. Each mark was a prayer written in paint and sweat. And before battle, they'd sing to their horses, whispering the songs their fathers had sung, promising safe passage through the smoke and fire. Some even braided eagle feathers into the horse's mane, believing that when the feathers danced in the wind, the Great Spirit rode with them. Music shifts. War drums fade in, echoing heartbeat rhythm. By the early 1800s, the horse had become the soul of native warfare. The Comanche could twist, turn, and fire arrows while clinging to the side of their mounts, using the horse's body as a living shield. The Cheyenne would paint their horses red for power, yellow for endurance, black for protection from bullets. Even the Crow Nation had a saying, "If you steal your enemy's best horse, you steal his spirit." Raiding wasn't just theft, it was ceremony, a way to prove courage, skill, and honor. No gunfight, no blood, just a silent race under the stars, hooves pounding, hearts racing, spirits soaring. And when the rider returned home leading a captured horse, the camp would erupt in song. To the people, it wasn't a victory of war, it was a gift of the gods. Flute fades, sound of a crackling fire. But the winds of change were coming, the kind no song could quiet. When the U.S. cavalry pushed west, the horse once again became the measure of freedom and loss. The same spirit that carried the people across plains now carried soldiers who came to fence those plains in. After the Battle of Little Bighorn and the surrender of tribes across the West, the soldiers rounded up and slaughtered thousands of native horses. It was a way to break the will of the people, to kill not the warriors, but their spirits. In 1877, when Chief Joseph surrendered, the army took the Nez Perce Appaloosas, their pride, their legacy, and sold them off like cattle. But some escaped, and if you listen close, they say you can still see their descendants running wild in the hills of Idaho, their coats spotted with the memories of the past. Somber music, low strings, and wind. Even after the reservations came, the horse never left the people. In the early 1900s, when native riders were forbidden from practicing their old ceremonies, they turned to rodeo. Not for fame, but survival. Every ride was rebellion, every race a memory. Old men would whisper to young riders before a bronc ride, "Don't fight him, feel him." Because they knew, a man don't own a horse. He earns its trust. Today, in places like Crow Fair and Standing Rock, the descendants of those riders still paint their horses, still braid feathers, still sing the same songs. And when they ride, the crowd goes silent, because somewhere in the rhythm of those hooves, the heartbeat of the old world still echoes. Wind rises, hooves fade in like thunder. You see, the twisted truth of this story ain't about taming the horse. It's about how the horse tamed us. How it pulled man out of the mud and taught him what it means to move with grace, not power. And maybe that's why, even today, when you watch a horse run, mane wild, nostrils flared, eyes burning like coals, something deep inside you stirs. It's not nostalgia, it's memory. The kind of memory that's older than time, older than fences, older than language. It's the memory of freedom itself. Thanks for riding with me through this wild piece of twisted history. Give this tale a thumbs up if you felt the wind stir a little in your chest, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next ride. Out here, legends don't fade. They just change riders.